Namaste, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Hindu Insider series. Thank you so much for your continuous support. I really want to thank all of you because last week's episode was our greatest achievement, I would say, because we had hit more than 2,000 views. So thank you so much for your support, and please keep this support coming in. I think it's very important, and it helps us to it gives us the motivation to continue to research and bring credible information to you, as well as engage quality speakers and domain knowledge experts as well. All right, so this week we are going to look at a very, very interesting topic, and joining me is Rupan and Loshni. Say hi, guys.
Hi,
Hi,
hello.
hello.
Okay, so Loshni and Rupan and myself, the three of us are from the Hindu Youth Network, and we have strong interest in Hinduism as well as the literature, the Puranas. And today we are going to share with you the key teachings, the key pointers of Ramayana, and we're also going to broaden your perspectives. I know we have a lot of access to different type of media sources these days on talking about Ramayana, but not everything can be is delivered in a very broad perspective. So today's objective is to really broaden your perspective and see the different viewpoints. And so we hope you will stay with us till the end. Okay, so that's the introduction. Bear with me. So I'm going to actually walk you through I'm going to bring you through some fundamental aspects of Ramayana. I'm going to provide you a very brief summary, and I'm going to answer two important questions. One would be, why did Rama send Sita on an exile, and that to a pregnant woman? How can that happen? That question is going to be answered today, and I did lots of cross-referencing, so you can trust my answer. And then, second question that I'm going to address is, how come Sita was asked to, sit for the test of fire? I mean, how can Rama doubt Sita's purity? I mean, that could be one of the most pressing and burning question. Then again, I have an answer for you. But before I even delve really deep into this part, I thought it's very important to give you an introduction to how our scriptures are being structured and where Ramayana sits in. So let me begin. Dayanandi Saraswati, Sri Dayanandi Saraswati Swami has said one thing, that Sanatana Dharma does not have a single ultimate religious text. We have an array of texts, partly because Hinduism encourages the art of questioning. So when you question the different types of questions, right, and no one single text can answer all questions and answer. So therefore, to cater the different specific questions, we have an array of religious texts, ample of resources to kind of share insights and provide us the ultimate truth, or rather to help us understand the ultimate truth. So the art of questioning is something that's very, very strongly encouraged. I know you might be asking, but last time people say, don't ask questions, don't ask questions. They usually will just snap at us, or because they may also there are some people who actually see as questioning the religious text means being very unholy. But actually, the truth is, art of questioning is the essence of Hinduism. It's through the art of questioning that we got a lot of texts. If Valmilki had not asked questions, Ramayana would not have been presented to us today. If Abhimanyu had not asked questions, Vyasa wouldn't have published Mahabharata. If Arjuna had not asked questions, we would not have got Bhagavad Gita. So it's very, very important to understand that the art of questioning is such a critical component. So when I say critical component, you may ask, so I can ask any type of questions. This is where you can ask questions with a critical perspective, but not cynical perspective. And I think that clarity needs to be there. So you need to have Shraddha in our scriptures first, before you even begin asking questions. Then as you ask critical questions, the answers under the right tutelage of gurus and stuff like that, you will definitely be able to find the right answers. So with that, let me now get to the point of where Ramayana sits. So we have called Vedas, right? So Veda comes from the root word called Vid. Vid means to know. So that to know. So the Vedas basically says the sources that gives us knowledge. So now Veda, in our tradition, our tradition of passing knowledge has been always been oral. Okay, so it has been an oral tradition. It's only much later that Veda Vyasa actually then classified all this important information into four main branches. Rig Veda, which primarily comprised stotras that are used for prayers. Then you have the Yajur Veda, which is primarily dealt with the ritual processes. Then you have Samaveda, which had mantras that to be sung. And then you have the Adharma Veda, which looks at how we can avert calamities and afflictions, as well as prayers to deities during religious and solemn rites. So this is the broad four branches. Okay. Now within the Vedas itself, we have two subcategories: the Vedangas, which is called, if I translate, can be said as the limbs of the Vedas. Okay, so you have the grammar, the prosody, the etymology of Vedic words, the know-how of rituals, the astronomy and astrology. Okay, so these are some parts. Then you have the Upanga. Upanga is basically a body of literature that is ancillary to the Veda. So it's made up of four disciplines of knowledge. Now, this is where the part comes up. You have Dharma Sastra, the code of conduct. You have the Puranic literature, which has two subcategories: Itihasas, which has then the Ramayana and Mahabharata. And then you have another category under the Puranic literature, which is called the Mahapuranas, the mythological texts. Okay, and then with the other aspects, disciplines of knowledge, like analyses of Vedic mantras and Upanishads, and you have logic, which helps us ascertain the truth of creation, okay, and establish the existence of the creator by means of logic. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so Itihasas itself was meant to help us better relate to key teachings. Okay, the life histories were then drawn upon to support our understanding. So Itihasa means as it happens. So like like a journalist, like a direct report. You have sage Valmilki, who was like the direct reporter of the Ramayana. Okay, so he documented it as he witnessed it. Likewise, you have Sage Vyasa, who wrote Sri Mahabharata. He was also part of the work, so he also directly reported them as it is. So Purana itself, the word Purana itself says that which may seem old but remains new and relevant. So people who actually composed Puranas, okay, the Mahapuranas, they're actually not part of the life histories, but it's just being passed down through oral tradition. So that fundamental understanding needs to be there. Now we're going to go into Ramayana itself. So Ramayana itself has it's presented in a very poetic form. So it has like more than 24,000 verses. Okay. Likewise, Vyasa's Mahabharata has more than 125,000 verses. Okay, and Ramayana actually comes in regional languages too, and these works are actually not translations, but rather transcreations. Why? It's because the poets who had come up with this Ramayana or translated these Ramayanas in the different languages, they actually induce an essence of creativity into the poetry. So that's how we actually end up having Kamba Ramayanam in Tamil. Pardon me for my pronunciation. Tunchantu Ramayana, which is translated in Malayalam. You have Ranganatha Ramayanamu in Telugu. Then you have the Krittivasa's Ramayana in the Eastern Indian languages, and in Nepali as well, there is one. Then you also have other Tyagaraja Kirtanams, Mirabai, and all who has also sing in praise of Ramayana. And you actually also have the Javanese Ramayana, which is actually from the archipelago of Indonesia, and it's written before even Kamba Ramayana. Okay, so now that we have got this very broad understanding of where Ramayana sits within our scriptures, let me now address the first question of why was Sita, who was pregnant, sent on an exile in the forest? I do not know whether you had this much of agony, but I had this much of agony. How come Rama, as a king, as a husband, even decide to even send a wife on an exile, that to a pregnant woman? So this is where it's very important to understand the chronological sequence of Ramayana. So Ramayana, as you know, starts off with Valmiki asking Narada questions, okay? And then after that, so let's go to the story itself. So King Dasharatha, okay, in the Ayodhya had actually many wives, okay, but in principle there are only three, okay, Kausalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi, okay, but they had no children for quite some time. And then this is when they called upon Rishi Shringa to perform a ritual, and then they distributed a pot of, in Tamil we call it payasam, okay? In another way we call it as herbal concoction. Okay, this concoction actually was meant to remove reproductive conception issues for all the three wives so that they can the success rate of conception will be much higher lah. Okay, so subsequently they obviously did the rituals and then the three wives Kausalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi consumed the pot of herbal concoction. Okay, and then Sumitra eventually had two sons, Lakshmana and Shatrughna, and then Kaikeyi had one son called Bharata, and Kaushalya had one son called Rama. So later on, Loshini is going to give us a bit more in-depth understanding of some key characters, but I'm going to just briefly touch about a few characters as I tell a story. Okay, so Rama was actually very, very obedient to his parents. After the age of 12, he was actually uh, he went through a lot of training. Okay, he went through and he was exposed to different texts. So he really had a sound knowledge of the code of conduct, archery skills. He was known for that. In fact, that's the reason why he holds a bow and an arrow even in a lot of pictures that we see. So while in the forest, of course, sorry, before that, so Sita was also 6. Then they married, okay, and you know how they got married. He went for Soyamvara, and then he lifted up the divine bow, and that's how he scored points to marry Sita. Okay, so that is that. Let's move on to the most important part. So there was one point in time where Kaikeyi had asked for two boons, okay, for saving Dasharatha during a crisis. One was for Bharata to succeed the kingdom, and the other one is to send Rama to exile so that the son can succeed the kingdom. Okay, so when all these three of them, so when Sita and when Rama was asked to go for exile, Sita accompanied and Lakshmana also accompanied them. So the three of them went to the forest, and then they were like a nomads, shifting from one village to another. And then at one point in time, they met Surpanaka, which Loshini will explain a lot more later on, who actually expressed interest in Rama. And then after that, her interest then shifted to Lakshmana. And then after that, when Surpanaka said, okay, since the both of you don't want to marry, Surpanaka said that both of you don't want to marry me, then fine, I'll go and, attempt to murder Sita. So she attempted to murder Sita, and that's where Lakshmana slit her nose. Okay, that's the story there. And then after that, what happened was they were in a hut. Surpanaka went to share this with Ravana, and then they decided to come together to abduct Sita. And so when they wanted to abduct Sita, of course, Ravana in partnership with Maricha, they came up with a plan. And the plan was, okay, you know what, Maricha, you pretend to be the deer, and then let's distract Sita. Sita will go in search, and then one of them will definitely go in search to hunt the deer and bring it to Sita. So that can be done. Then that's a good time for me to abduct Sita. So that was their plan. But it didn't work to a certain extent because Lakshmana remained with Sita. So Lakshmana remained with Sita, and then but I'll explain this portion later on, okay? Because I want to get to the main answer itself. Sorry, I know I'm boring you, but it's important to get this to have some brief understanding of it. And then after, obviously, Ravana was successful in abducting Sita, and then she was kept in the Nurvilya hills, and then obviously after, you know what happened, Hanuman assisted Rama, and then Rama managed to bring back Sita, and then when they returned from Lanka, okay, this is where Sita was asked to complete the test of fire, and this question I'll answer later. After 2 years of coronation, so they are all now back in Ayodhya already. So after 2 years of coronation, that time Sita was, I think, 35 years old, Rama was 41, Sita was pregnant. So during these 2 years, they actually had an enjoyable time. And this is also the period where Sita, this is a very important point, Sita actually expresses a desire for her sons to be very grounded, to be born with humility, to lead a very a humble life. Okay, and Rama was also actually very very keen in that idea. And this is the same time where Rama actually hears from one of his aides that, hey, some people in the town are actually speaking ill about her. So Rama as a king has two options. Option one, to either choose to remain oblivious but face the allegations, okay, that he's probably, or as a king is showing favoritism, he's no longer living by the justice system. That's option one, right? Option two, bring Sita to the court. In other words, court martial her, but that would imply that Rama believes other people's allegation. Correct. So these are the two options. So this is the conundrum that Rama was stuck in. So this is when Rama says, okay, he recalls, okay, actually Sita wanted her children to lead a very humble life, correct? So he orders Lakshmana to bring Sita to the river of Tamasa. So when Sita went there, Sita actually didn't quite like the environment after some time. And Sita, who is pregnant, actually questions Lakshmana, are you sure did my husband send me here? The environment is not comfortable at all for me to live in. And then Lakshmana says, no, Rama is the one who gave me this instruction. And so this is where we need to think, or rather the big question comes, right? So how come Rama actually sent a Sita here? Is Rama right or wrong? Obviously, strong devotees of Rama will say that what Rama did was right because it's dharmic way to see this. This is because it's very dharmic and this is how we should see it. But one thing that we fail to understand is that actually the person who's most affected in this is actually Sita. Okay, so keep that in your mind. The person who's actually the most affected actually should be Sita, right? But Sita is actually someone who can challenge Ravana. So she's actually a very, very strong personality. So Rama, so obviously strong devotees of Rama will say that what Rama did was right because it's dharmic and because he had to adhere to the rules of administration. But from a Sita's point of view, or rather devotees who still see things from Sita's point of view may feel that, oh no, but she's being victimized. So this is where we make a mistake. You need to understand that Sita is not a weak person at all. Sita is actually a very, very strong person. But she actually, and if she had thought, okay, she would have said, fine, I've been already sent to this forest already, right? Fine, I'll live my life. I don't want my children to succeed the kingdom or succeed Rama. She could have said that, but she didn't. She instead understood that Rama was under immense admin pressure. Therefore, this is the strong word that a lot of Vedic scholars have used. She chose to forgive Rama. Okay, so reality is Rama may not be absolutely right because no administration is flawless. And if anything, the first person to reward should be Sita. And if Sita has chosen to forgive Rama, so should we. Because Sita, as I mentioned earlier, is a very, very strong woman. She doesn't require an advocate. She's very affluent. She's very charming. Okay. And so it's important to understand this aspect. And Rupa and Loshini, any pointers to add on at this point in time before I move on to the second question, which is a very short answer? No?
Let me think.
I think I do resonate on that. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Okay, I just have one point to say that actually we need to understand that Lord Rama and Sita are not ordinary personalities. They're not souls like us. That's the first thing we need to understand.
Yep.
They do not take birth here because of their karma. Like for example, when we take birth in a particular family or we acquire some status, whether rich or poor, it's because of our past misdeeds, good or bad. But when the Lord takes birth along with his spiritual energy, which in this case is Mother Sita, right? It's for us to appreciate them, to love them, to admire them, so that we can go back to them. So they come here because of their mercy, and the kind of activities they perform here have a specific purpose. And most of the time is to actually teach us very valuable lessons. So we shouldn't forget that point, because sometimes we tend to think that, committing mistakes, they're ordinary people just like us. We tend to forget that sometimes it is just kind of like a show, just so that they can make us learn something, and they can make us appreciate them better. So I would just like to add on that point as well.
Loshni, yourself?
And also to add on, yes, on two things. One, I do agree with the fact that because Sita is often depicted as a very demure and very, someone who's very quiet, very reserved. And in some cases, some people who are critical about it say that, oh, she's someone who doesn't have agency and so on. But thankfully, Karthik, I guess you have really expanded on that idea and you have challenged that stereotype, because especially in the Valmiki Ramayana, if you notice, Sita is not being depicted as someone who's quiet or powerless. In fact, as what you mentioned, she made her choices, right? She made her choices, and like what Ruben said, they are not, like us, taking on a birth because of karmic truth. They are here to serve a purpose, and it is important for us to consider in the Valmiki Ramayana. In fact, when Rama is sent for exile, right, Sita doesn't just immediately follow him in the Valmiki Ramayana version. In fact, she asks him, "Why are you letting Kaikeyi actually tell you to do such a thing? Why do you need to go to exile?" Is actually a first question. So she doesn't just immediately go, and this is something you would come across in the Valmiki version. And also another important thing is, I believe, is that although we many of us see Rama as a god and so on, we have to understand that in the Dashavatara itself, or even talking about Rama as an incarnation, he has taken a human form. And I think what is beautiful about this is that, even for God, when God takes a human form, he abides by the social conventions or the social dilemmas that are also posted at him when he is in the human form. So if we were to understand it in that ground, then rather than to just simply come up with superficial ideas such as, oh, women as weak and men as seen as patriarchal, would definitely diminish. And we will get to see how that even as gods, when they take a human form, they're trying to prove to us that, hey, by the end of the day, when we take a human form, we are also subject to the same dilemmas, the same problems that you face. And perhaps what we show as a part of the divine play would be something for you to also take some lessons from. There's no understanding as, okay, Rama took a form for us, so therefore everything is right. No, Rama is trying to actually make us think further by saying that, I have done some things that might seem to be controversial, and I've done some things that would seem to be really justifiable. But the question is back to you as to what would you do as a human? That is what the Ramayana is trying to speak to us. So if we could understand it from that kind of a perspective, then perhaps Ramayana will be far more enriching and illuminating to its readers. So thank you.
Right, well said, guys. Thank you so much for adding on. Okay, now let me address the next important question. Why was Sita asked to undergo Agni Pariksha, the test of fire, right? So again, this is going to be a very relatively short answer because we pretty much already have an understanding now of the story. So you need to understand that before I even address that specific question, Lakshmana has always seen Rama and Sita as his father and mother. And this is because these words and these instructions, this guidance, this encouragement came from his very own mother, Sumitra. She always said, you should always see River Rama as your father and Sita as your mother, and you should serve them religiously. So it's important to remember this. Okay, so Lakshmana always sees Sita and Rama at a very high pedestal. So when Ravana and of course in partnership with Maricha devised a plan to mimic, to abduct Sita, Maricha actually mimics, oh Sita, oh Lakshmana at this point in time. And this point in time, Rama's already out there going in search for the deer, and then you have Lakshmana and Sita who are in the hut, if I may use the word. So they are there in the hut, okay? And then Sita says, hey, you know what? I think you better go. Maybe Rama is in trouble or something like that. So at that point in time, she reacted very instinctively. Okay, she reacted very instinctively. She's hearing a call for help. She's worried that something is happening to her husband. So she said, Lakshmana, go. Lakshmana said, no, how can I leave you here alone, Sita? Something might happen, so no, I have to protect you. And that was also the order of Rama. So Lakshmana wanted to adhere to the order of Rama and wanted to stay with Sita. And this is when Sita instinctively, again I say instinctively, she says, oh, that means I know you're waiting for this moment because you really want to have a relationship with me, and that's the reason why you don't want to go and help Rama and you're not bothered about Rama. So at this point in time, actually Sita maligns Lakshmana character. Okay, and that's the truth that we need to understand. And Lakshmana couldn't actually bear these sharp and false allegations, and he says, you know what? After this, after hearing these words from you, Sita, Mother Sita, I cannot be here anymore. I really cannot be here anymore. So I will let the forest deities protect you, and I will go in search for Rama. So this is when he leaves the hut, and this is when he also draws the line and tells Sita, don't cross the line, don't cross the line at any cost. Okay, and then Sita then realizes that, hey, okay, now I'm alone, and this is when Ravana makes advantage of the opportunity. He comes here in disguise of a sage, as a rishi, and asks for food, bhiksha, and then try to trick her to cross the line and then abducts her. So then after, what happens? So I'm going to cut. And now going back to the scene where Sita is actually in the Nuruvilya Hills, right? So this is where Anuman also went and then bring back Sita. And then after that, of course, with the support of Ramana, because Rama defeats Ravana, and then they're back. And I mentioned again, they had a coronation, right? And this is when they're back before the coronation period. Okay, this is when Rama calls Lakshmana and he says, "Go and ask Sita to wear all the ornaments and come to the battlefield." He says this. Lakshmana was like, why is he asking Mother Sita to come and to the battlefield, and that too very well dressed with all the ornaments and all? Sita was also very perplexed, like, why is my husband asking me to do this? So then they carried her in palanquin. She came there, but at that point in time, Lakshmana was just looking. Sorry, one factual correction. Sorry. Lakshmana didn't take the order. The order was given to Vibhishana. Sorry, pardon me. Okay, Rama actually called Vibhishana. Vibhishana was asked to actually to invite Sita to come to the battlefield with all the ornaments on. So then when Sita disembarked, okay, from the palanquin, Lakshmana refused to actually have eye contact with Sita because he felt so down. He felt so in a way, you have this humiliated experience, right? That you feel like maybe Sita is still thinking that that I'm seeing her in a different light. So that kind of thinking was going on. So Lakshmana was just looking down at that point in time, and this is how it's narrated in the Valmiki's Ramayana as well. You can go and refer to the books. And this is where Rama says, okay, you know what, Sita, I want you to walk to actually sit for this test of fire. And then at the first instance, Lakshmana, Sita was confused, and then as Sita and Rama, without words, through eye expressions, they understood what's happening. So Sita then smartly, or rather in a way, asks Lakshmana to go and light up the fire pit. Okay, go and light up the fire pit, and I will sit for the test. So what you need to understand is that she understood that the very fact that Rama is doing this is not to ask Sita to prove her chastity or purity or whatsoever. Sita knows that Rama trusts her a lot, and Rama also trusts Sita 100%, 100.1%. Okay, so the trust between the two couples is that strong. But she understood that this was not a test of fire to prove her chastity, but rather to make her understand her mistake for what she did at the forest, because she maligned Lakshmana. So therefore, to pay back, to every action has a consequence, correct? So in a form to tell to the world that if anybody who maligns another person's character, they will not be spared, even if it's from people from the kingdom, and that too, if it's my wife, if she has character maligned another person, they have to face the punishment accordingly. And therefore, she understood this mistake and she went to sit for the test of fire. But obviously, Agni Deva knows how pure and valuable she is, and Agni Deva actually comes out of the pit and says, "No, mother, I can't do this, I can't do this." But anyway, that's the other part. But what's the point I'm trying to say here is that the reason why he asked Sita to sit for the test of fire, to complete the test of fire, is to maintain impartial judgment for someone who character maligns another person, not to prove Sita's chastity or her purity. Okay, and if that has happened, if it was otherwise, I don't think Adi Shankara, Vyasa, and Valmiki, Ramanuja would have unanimously celebrated Rama. That is something that you need to understand, okay? Because he wanted to maintain impartiality in judgment, and therefore, as a king, he had to do his duty, and that's the reason why. And he also wanted Sita to understand her mistakes. So these were all the reasons why Sita actually agreed to also go for the test of fire, not because she thinks that she has to prove her purity. This is the point that I want to reiterate 1,001 times. All right, Ruben and Roshini, any things to add on at this point in time? Ruben, you muted yourself.
I think
Yeah, Ruben, you muted yourself, so you're going to unmute
Yeah, sorry.
yourself. Yes.
Okay, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay, so the point that you mentioned about Mother Sita and her chastity, right? So I've seen recently that there are some shows about Ravan and how, he never lay a finger on Mother Sita, and even though he's seen as a bad guy, he actually like truly loved her and stuff like that. Yeah, I just have a few comments on that. There's a reason why he never laid a finger on Mother Sita, because there's a bit of a history to him where actually he used to rape many women, and unfortunately, the last woman that he raped was a wife of a very powerful sage, and he didn't know that he raped this Apsara, and I forgot her name. And then her husband happened to be a sage, and then this sage cursed him that if you rape another woman after this, your head will explode. You see, so it's not that he loved her or anything like that. He already had a wife, Mandodari. Okay, and it's because of the fear that his head will explode. He made a very logical decision not to play with the curse, and therefore he did not lay any finger on Mother Sita. So just wanted to add a note in case people think that Ravan is he's being misrepresented, as a bad guy. There's also this side, that people may not know. So I'm just sharing, and also for the fire thing, right? This may seem as a completely, an alternative explanation, but I thought I'll just share something that I've heard. When Mother Sita tells Lakshmana, and tells him off, and chides his character, and he leaves, right? And then he leaves that circle of protection. And when Ravana comes in a disguise to actually abduct her as a sage, right? She actually goes into the house to get some fruits to offer to Ravana in the form of a sage, right? But what is explained is Agni Dev, the fire god, she actually, the true form of Sita, the spiritual body of Sita, okay, actually takes shelter of Agni Dev when she goes in. And then who actually comes out is the shadow, or rather we call the Maya Sakti, which is not Sita herself, but actually a reflection. So Ravana actually carries not Mother Sita herself, but you can say a shadow reflection of Mother Sita, in the sense that Mother Sita was never touched by Ravana. Because the truth is, anyone who has a spiritual body, like Lord Ram and Mother Sita, right, they cannot be touched by material human beings. Because the spirit soul itself, as we see in Bhagavad Gita, cannot be touched or withered by the wind or anything like that. So the whole fire plan was to actually bring out the real Mother Sita back again, because she took shelter of Agni Dev, and then again the fire was brought out, and then the so-called fake rescued Sita went in, and then the real Sita that has been safeguarded by Agni Dev came out. This is another explanation, but I'm not sure whether which is but
I think it's you can see things. It just broadens the perspectives, and in fact could be also taken in as a supplementary explanation, because it doesn't contradict with the other one.
It doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
It supplements. So in case people, it's not it's two different versions. It's just an additional explanation. So it supplements it. Okay, Roshini. And do you have anything to add on at this point in time?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just a short add-on, like, and yeah, I mean, Agni Pariksha is something very much spoken about, and there have been a lot of explanations to come to terms with it. But I think it's a very interesting perspective that I'm hearing from Karthik and Ruben. In terms of how one is for Rama to show that regardless of whatever your position may be, as long when it comes to any action like the Danu hierarchy. So for chastising Lakshmana that day, she had to also face the consequences later on, which I will be expanding upon later and I'm sharing. But yeah, it does show that. And of course, for Ruben's case, I think that is a very interesting point, because if you were to notice this idea of Vedavati, the woman who's said to take Sita's place in the alternative story of how the Maya Shakti is following, it's quite interesting, because then it raises the question, so where is the ending of the Ramayana? But if you really think about it, as far as regional retellings come about, there's really no ending in the Ramayana. There's in fact a lot of continuities. If you look at Vedavati, the one who's in the alternative telling, who supposedly took the place of Sita, when in abduction, she kind of is later revered as Padmavati in the story of Tirupati Venkatajalapati. And then you also have in other retellings about how she takes on the form of Vaishno Devi, and there's a temple for her as well. So it's very interesting how one epic has so many perspectives derived from different regions, different languages, different communities, ethnicities. And I think that is indeed the most significant thing about the Ramayana, because it makes people expand their imaginations, their thinking, the way in which they want to understand women and revere them. I think that is something that is being reiterated time and again in the Ramayana, and I think that is something to also take note of.
Definitely, and that's there's a reason why I think it's also being revered as I mean, it's a historical narrative. It's a historical narrative, and it's being revered, in a way. All right. So now,
Yes.
Loshini, you're going to share with us about three important characters, right?
Right. Thank you so much, Karthik. So we so far have heard about the background of the Ramayana. As for many of us, when we think of the Ramayana, when we think of epics, we think of it as being extremely long, and we try to summarize things up. And then people tend to think of this as a princess got kidnapped, her husband fought with her kidnapper, the princess and prince unite. But if it was that simple, we would not have the Ramayana today, even at present. And what is mostly overlooked in these incidents is the fact that there are a lot of other events that have acted as a catalyzing force in the battle between Rama and Ravana. And one motive or recurring theme in this regard then is that in the Ramayana, it's being shown time and again that every action has its consequences. Right? I'll repeat again. Every action has its consequences. So throughout the Ramayana, in fact, we would observe this occurring. And with regard to that, I'm going to elaborate on this theme by sharing slightly more about King Dasharatha, Kaikeyi, and Surpanaka. Okay, so to begin with this, I will have to go way before even Rama's birth. So, as some of us might know of this narrative, King Dasharatha actually goes to a forest for hunting, and while hunting, he actually mistakes a young man for a animal, for a bow, and he from afar. And he does what he does is he shoots his arrow at him accidentally. So this young lad in this story is referred to in the Valmiki Ramayana as Yajnadatta. But just to avoid confusion, we will keep his name to Shravana Kumar, because I think quite a number of us might be aware of the story of Shravana Kumar and his filial piety towards the parents. So basically, this guy Shravana, who gets shot by Dasharatha, he was supposed to bring water for his blind parents in the forest. And Dasharatha feels distressed when he finds out that he did not shoot an animal, but he shot a human. And he kind of feels distress, and he apologizes to Shravana. And Shravana Kumar, he has only one thing in his mind. He tells them, okay, fine, done is done, but what I need you to do is to actually help me give the water to my parents, because they are waiting there for me. And feeling devastated, Dasharatha, with no other choice, goes first to Shravana Kumar's parents, and he gives the water to them. And of course, naturally, they would ask, Dasharatha himself reveals that he's not Shravana Kumar. So they ask, "Where's our son?" And he has to break the bad news to them. And he says, "Well, my son, well, your son is dead." And when that happens, when that's being said, the parents are instantaneously shocked, and in a lot of and with a huge sadness, they come and tell the Shraddha that yeah, you brought us water and so on, but you killed our son, and that's horrible. So you will have to face the consequences for what you have done to our son, who was innocently just out in the forest getting us water. And for that, just like how we have been separated from our son, you too will experience the pain of of separation from your children one day. And with that, the parents breathe their last. Now, there are two important things here that I want to maintain. It is a recurring trope, rather, in many of the epics and Puranas, that when a hunting is occurring, something bad is going to happen. You would see this in other stories, like even in Parikshit stories, in Ramayana, in Mahabharata, Pandu. I mean, some of us know the story of how Pandu got cursed by the Rishi Kandama, right? So every time there's hunting, there's something that's going to happen. And it does, I mean, this is something for us also think, because when we talk about hunting, we immediately think about how, it's cruel. We know as much as we give importance to humans, we also should give importance to animals. So, this epics and this Puranas do kind of, in a way, subtly hint at the idea of hunting, in my opinion, perhaps in a critical sense, because in the attempt to kill an animal, they cause even bigger problems for themselves. So wildlife, all these kind of things come into the mind. So, but going back to Shravana Kumar's story, Dasharatha is now cursed. And at this point of time, it's strange because Dasharatha doesn't have any children at the point of time when he gets cursed, and then he starts to wonder, like, hey, you might start to wonder, like, hey, the curse doesn't work then. But this is where there's a twist, because King Dasharatha desires for children. He wants to have an heir to his throne, just like any other king. So what he does in the end, he does the Putra Kameshi Yajna. That is a specific ritual done by kings to have specifically a son, because in those times the idea of a son being the heir was quite popular. So for him, he wanted children and he wanted a son. So what happens in the end is he gets Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrughna as Kartik had mentioned. But everything seems to go really hunky-dory down there because he has a complete family now. He feels happy and everything. And as Kartik mentions, Rama and Lakshmana and all the brothers, they have a glorious record for being wonderful students. They are the pets, like especially Rama. He's the favorite pupil of Vishwamitra, of Vashishta, and everything seems to be great for a king like Dasharatha, right? But you see, this is where the twist happens, because when Dasharatha least expects it, on the eve of Rama's coronation, Kaikeyi, of all the queens, actually changes the entire situation. Now, to just give you a background, Kaikeyi is someone who loves Rama, even though she's not the biological mother per se, even though it's Kaushalya who is Rama's biological mother. But Kaikeyi is someone who's not his biological mother, and she's someone who adores Rama. But that is she becomes precisely the very turning point of the whole coronation ceremony, because she demands to Dasharatha, as mentioned previously, to send Rama on an exile for 14 years and coronate Bharata as the king instead. So this is an important point to note, because in Dasharatha's case, he had killed Shravana Kumar accidentally. He did this action unknowingly, but yet he had to face the consequences for causing someone else's distress. So this is a reinstatement of the point that whatever actions you do down the road, there will be a consequence. Maybe not today, not tomorrow, but some years down the road for sure. And at that point of time, Dasharatha realizes that, hey, I did this many years ago and I'm facing the consequences for it. And what about Kaikeyi? Kaikeyi is said to be instigated by her maid servant, Mantra Devi, who's been with her from a very young age. And, I would rather than to vilify Mantra, it's quite interesting to perhaps consider how Mantra herself is a reflection of Kaikeyi's anxieties. On the surface, yes, Kaikeyi loves Rama, but, the moment she sets a pressure point and she tells her that, hey, if Rama becomes the king, Kaushalya is going to become the Rajamata. She's going to be the next important person. And guess what? You and Bharata are going to be sidelined. So now what? So, the moment this anxiety that's latent inside her gets awakened, then Kaikeyi becomes a very different person, which is precisely what the Ramayana is trying to show. When placed in a certain circumstance, everyone's character takes a turn. And Kaikeyi is definitely one of the important people in which the character just snaps and turns into a totally another person. And she does the unimaginable in Dasharatha's case. In fact, Dasharatha is shocked. He can't believe that Kaikeyi would ask such a boon at this point of time. So her inner fears here get the better of her. And she knew her actions would have implications because she knows that Dasharatha loves Rama to the max. He is basically Dasharatha's pet. But she chose to go with it. And for that also, she had to face the consequences because her husband later dies as a result of being unable to bear the separation. And this is really reflexive of how even in the house of Ayodhya, we tend to think that, oh, Rama is good. And okay, everyone in Ravana's house is bad. But the point here is, even in Rama's house, you have characters who can shift their understandings or their affiliations, and when that happens, they also face the consequences for it. And therefore, the Ramayana kind of reinstates how actions have consequences, whether it is done knowingly or unknowingly. And we have so far spoken about the house of Ayodhya, and now perhaps we can see how this applies in the house of Ravana, and this will bring us to the story of Surpanaka. Well, in short, the name Surpanaka means sharp nails. Surpanaka, as some of us might know, is the sister of Ravana. And here's an interesting fact about Ravana's family. So Ravana and Surpanaka and Vibhishana, they're all born to out of an intermarriage, actually, between a rishi called Vishrava and a Rakshasi called Kaikeyi. So we all know Ravana as a renowned scholar. But, it's very interesting how in this case, while some people regard Ravana as a Rakshasa, if you look at his origins, it's quite interesting because he has associations with Brahma, with the Rakshasa clan, and suddenly you're like, hey, so where is this guy's leanings towards? And the same thing happens in Shurpanaka's case because she's quite a different personality in the household compared to Ravana and Vibhishana. So Vibhishana is a bit more, he's a bit more understanding. He tries to see the perspective. Ravana refuses to. Ravana wants to seek possession. And then you have Surpanaka, who's someone in a way, she's impulsive. She's depicted as someone impulsive, and this is very much evident in the story of her entering Panchavati when she sees Rama and Lakshmana. So let me just share this part with you. There are some people, of course, in media and in some books and tellings, you might hear some people saying that, when Surpanaka went to Panchavati to see Rama and Lakshmana, she actually transformed into a beautiful woman. Well, here's a fun fact. This retelling is mentioned in the, if I'm not mistaken, the Tulsidas Ramayana in Hindi, as well as the Kamba Ramayana in Tamil. But an interesting thing to note here is in the Valmilki Ramayana, she actually does not change her form, even though she can shapeshift. She actually goes as she is when she's going to see, when she sees Rama. And it is interesting because it is perhaps one of the rarest moments where Rama actually gets playful. So what happens is when Surpanaka approaches her, he doesn't shout at her or anything. He tells her very calmly. He said, look here, my lady, I am actually married and I'm taken. So there's no point in pursuing me. I have a brother and, you might be interested in him. And Rama is really playful here because he knows that Lakshmana is also married. But, the only difference is Lakshmana is not living with Urmila. So, this is some, I don't know, maybe it's a guy game. It's a guy's thing. Or maybe Ruben and Karthik might understand this.
No.
So this is what happened. So she goes to Lakshmana thinking that, okay, there's some hope. She's just trying to be pragmatic. So when she goes there, obviously Lakshmana is a bit of a short-tempered guy. And, it's a time and, you're going to Lakshmana. And Lakshmana also tells her that, no, I'm sorry. I can't accept your proposal because I am not interested. And Lakshmana also does another game. So he tells him to, and he tells her, you might want to consider my brother, who is better in many ways than me. So what they do is they kind of place on a roundabout. And so when Lakshmana says no, he goes back to Rama. She goes back to Rama. And at that point of time, Surpanaka sees Sita. So now what happens is it's just an instinctive thing, right? When she sees Sita, she feels that, okay, I now know why the guys are not saying a yes to me, because there's another woman in the picture. So if I can get rid of that challenge, then everything would settle in. But you see, the way in which she's thinking is definitely it's kind of a very jungle law thing if you were to think about it, like the fittest survival. She doesn't really consider about the idea of culture or, is it right for me to actually do that? Or, why should I really cause harm to another person's wife or a woman for that matter? And, when that happens, of course, Rama sends the threat and he sends Lakshmana and says, please take care of this. I think it's getting out of hand. And that is where Lakshmana actually chops off her nose, which is something we always hear time and again. But then there are many questions here also, because like what Karthik, Ruben and I are always emphasizing upon, the Ramayana is not really to show people as cut and right, correct and wrong. Really shows the multiple personalities within one person, and it's being expressed time and again. And for Shurpanaka's case, one important thing for us to also consider is, was it necessary perhaps for Lakshmana to give such a strong punishment for Surpanaka by chopping off her nose? Maybe they could have found some other way. But and another question here is, maybe if Rama and Lakshmana were a bit more frank, cutting a bit more down on the diplomacy, if they had told her that, we are really not interested, we are sorry, I think you should just look for something else to keep yourself occupied, would the story have changed? So that's another important thing perhaps for us to consider, because Surpanaka is a very interesting character because she raises a lot of questions even within many women. And the question also here is it wrong for a woman to actually say desire openly for a man? Or is it acceptable for her to make the first move in initiating a proposal? Is that wrong? Is that unacceptable? What are your thoughts? So Surpanaka is a question, she leaves us with a question that we can ask as to what are your thoughts about this? So in that case, we start to also see that Surpanaka is not a binary of being a good person or a bad person. She is both the victim and the victimizer. The victim because yes, she gets her nose chopped off, and also the victimizer because yes, she's also the same person who wanted to attack someone else. So in that case, she has faced the consequences, but whether she had to face such a heavy sanctioning for what she did is, of course, a question that we can maybe discuss later on. And of course, even for Rama and Lakshmana's case, what they serve to show us is even their actions have consequences. They in a way kind of, were driving her in a roundabout. And maybe if they had changed the situation, would things have changed? And it is important for us to think of that because what Rama and Lakshmana are also trying to say is that even if we are so-called in a godlike position, or even if we are very noble or great, we do not escape our consequences. We face them, and when we face them, it makes us a better person. And that is what the Ramayana shows. The Ramayana is not a story about trying to become an ideal being or trying to become the best person, and trying to emulate and copy everything exact. It is a process. Becoming a better person is a process. That is what Rama, Lakshmana, and all the other characters in the story are trying to show. Kaikeyi repents for her mistake. Dasharatha repents for his mistake. Ravana repents for his mistake. Rama does. Sita does. Everybody repents for what they have done. So there is some kind of an introspection and reflection in regard to themselves as a character. And that is something very much relevant in today's world for us to think about because we are so concerned about others' judgment of us. But have you ever taken a step back to think about what we mean to our own selves? What do we think we are currently doing? These are things to really consider when thinking about the Ramayana. It is not a text just simply to see that everything must be done correctly. We mustn't do anything wrong, and if we do anything wrong, we have to face a lot of punishments for it. No, that's not the point. It's just to show people to make them learn from these lessons that these characters have gone through in the Ramayana, and it is in that process to realize yourself within as to what place you have in people's life, what place you have in your own life. And what all these three characters are trying to re-emphasize is that their actions are always sanctioned, and it's always represented through the curses and boons that occur in the Ramayana. Curses and boons are not just, sometimes people tend to say, ayo, every time, in this story, it's like, in most stories, it's like, okay, there's one guy who curses and then one guy who gives the boon, and that's it, the end. It's not, it's a very, I want to make an important statement here that curses and boons are not reflexive of a fatalistic retelling. It is not fatalistic. This is something that it is something that is natural. If you do, every action has a reaction of its own. So this is exactly what the curses and boons are serving to symbolize. Because of the curse, there is some kind of a relearning for Dasharatha. Because of a boon, Kaikeyi turns the entire narrative into an unexpected thing. So these curses and boons often operate as a turning point, as a moment to reflect and a moment to transform into a better person as a whole. So with that in mind, maybe I'll just leave it to Ruben and Karthik if you'd like to add on anything to this. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Loshni. I think that was very well organized, and thank you so much for sharing a lot of pertinent points. I think one key takeaway from my earlier sharing and even your sharing is that one thing that we all need to think about is to really find ways of shifting from a very instinctive thinking or mechanical thinking for the matter to a deliberative thinking. Really think through our actions before we or decisions before we even make think through our thoughts, think through everything before we make a decision and act on it. I think that's in fact the essence of it, because all the three characters you shared, they all instinctively reacted to certain things, forgetting certain aspects, certain code of values for that matter as well. I think the point that a lot of these, not just itihasas, but even the Mahapuranas also do iterate the importance of adhering to the code of conduct, observing the values, and having some sort of principles in our life. and making more very deliberative decision. All right, Ruben, over to you.
Okay, I'll just keep this short. Okay, I just thought that I would share this because I feel very relevant to Ramayana,
Yeah.
and you will see at the end how it's relevant. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be a surprise. Okay,
Yeah,
but
he did. He did. I just want to. I just want to share info. Earlier, he had told me. He had in fact shared with Loshini and myself that these are the two topics that he's going to touch on. And then just 2 minutes before we come on air or rather go on live, he tells me, "You know what? I'm going to change the topic." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So even both of us, Loshini and myself, have no clue what he has got in store for us. So let's pay attention to Ruben now.
yeah, sorry, I just wanted to. It just suddenly came, inspiration. I just thought that I would just share. So okay, it starts with this hunter, okay, in the forest, again hunting, and he was mercilessly looting and killing people who were walking through that forest passage. And then we all know who Narada Muni is. So Narada Muni comes along the way, and this hunter tries to kill him because he sees him as another human. But however, because of Narada Muni's spiritual prowess, he wasn't able to, and he dropped his weapons and he said, "I don't know who you are, but I just simply can't kill you. Um, I've been doing these sinful activities like killing people without any reason. Like, can you save me from this?" So then Narada Muni says that, "Oh, I understand the situation, but how are you going to give these activities up?" So he said that's why I'm here, surrender to you. So Narada Muni then advises him, okay, you chant Rama, these two syllables, Rama, you chant them every day. Don't do anything else, just chant them. And just be patient, and then you will see how you will improve. So this hunter, because he has killed so many people, he had accumulated so much of sins, he couldn't utter the word Rama. He said that, "I'm sorry, I understand you're giving me good instruction, but I just can't do it." So he said, "Okay, why not you utter the word Mara, Ma and Ra?" So if you look, Ma and Ra is just the flip side of Rama. So if you say it together, you're actually saying Rama, you see. So Narada Muni was trying to trick him into actually chanting Rama, okay, by saying Mara. Mara actually means death, like death. So he said, okay, that I can do. And so obediently he sat down, and he chanted Mara, 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 and it somehow rhythmically became Rama, 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 and he did that for quite a while. So what happened was he was seated down without moving anywhere. So there was an ant hill that was built around him because he was seated in that position. And then after quite a while, Narada Muni comes back to visit him and sees on it to check on his progress, how is he doing and stuff. And then he realizes that he's completely changed as a person, and he comes out of that ant hill, and that's where we get the name. Give me a second.
Okay. Meanwhile, if viewers, if you have any comments or information that you want to share with us, you can actually drop in the section below as well. Okay, Ruben.
Yeah. So when he comes out of the ant hill, in Sanskrit, ant hill means Valmika. So ant hill means Valmika. So that person who was a hunter who previously mercilessly killed so many humans became Valmiki, and that is how we have our Ramayana today. So my point is that the holy names of the Lord are very, very powerful. And we don't know because when we chant, we don't see anything magical or spiritual happening in front of us. But our scriptures say that we work hard every day to earn money, material profits. But when we die, instantaneously all those profits, no matter how much they are, is gone. But the spiritual profit that is earned by chanting the Lord's names is carried on from one life to another. So this actually teaches us to value this human life. Are we going to just use the entire 100 years of our life simply trying to save up amounts of money, or are we going to spend at least some time a day chanting the Lord's names and earning this spiritual profit? Then the next question is, material profit or money gives me at least some enjoyment. What does spiritual profit give me anyway? So then the Bhagavad Gita explains, right, that one who has attained a certain amount of spiritual profit, when he dies, then he never takes birth here again. He goes to the spiritual world where there's no birth, there's no death, there's no old age, there's no disease, there's no hunger, there's no thirst. Basically, there's no miseries there. So the answer to happiness is in this message here. So this is basically what I wanted to share. And I feel that we are out of time, so I will just keep the other sharing.
No, please go ahead, go ahead. I mean, it's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so but this is one. Then the other one is quite short. When Rama left for the forest for 14 years, right? So there was no king, right, in the sense at that point. So temporarily, the kingdom was handed to Bharat, his brother, right? So there's this scene where Bharat actually visits Lord Ram before he leaves, and he places Lord Ram's slippers on his head. So this actually signifies one of the parts of devotional service, which is it's called Pada Sevanam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. So Bharat actually placed the two slippers on his head to signify that I'm simply your servant. As a younger brother, I'm simply your servant. And the very, very significant thing that I loved about this was he does not only do it then, but once he returns to the kingdom, believe it or not, he places those two slippers on the throne and he sits at the bottom and he runs the entire kingdom like that throughout the 14 years. You see? So what we can draw from this is in our daily lives, when we are householders, when we have our own families, we shouldn't see them as, oh, this is my wife, they are my kids. We should see them as they are the Lord's servants, and we should treat them with respect. That way, there will be peace and harmony no matter what. There won't be violence, there won't be abuse. Naturally, you will have respect for everybody. So I feel this is a very key point, that we are missing out. How to actually get the mood of service imbibed into us, especially when it comes to serving the Lord. When you are very engaged in serving the Lord, you will naturally want to serve all His children. You won't see them as your possessions. You will see them as the Lord's possessions, and you will learn to admire and respect them, no matter who they are in your life. Yeah, that's all.
And I think that's also a very important point, Ruben, because sometimes we also, this is going to go in a very philosophical perspective, okay, from a philosophical perspective. Sometimes we also meet and interact with people who may actually hurt us, who may use sharp words against us. And at that point in time, you can either choose to react instinctively or choose to see the divinity in them and say that, hey, you know what, there's also Lord in this person. It's just that the person hasn't realized the divinity. So that would allow you to prevent you from reacting excessively and cope with the situation. I think that's also another important point that you have put across. Any other points that you want to share, Rupert?
Yeah, just one short point. You mentioned about words hurting another person, right? There's this point of karma from Ramayana that I wanted to share in the beginning. It slipped my mind.
Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
There's two types of karma. There's the physical karma that when you physically hurt somebody or physically hurt an animal, you will get it back. And then there's also subtle karma, which is when you hurt someone's feelings. I mean, you're physically not hurting the person, but you are hurting the person's feelings. Like, for example, when Sita, spoke about Lakshman, she instinctively, impulsively hurt his feelings. So there is this character called Kaikeyi in Ramayana, who actually reveals that in Kali Yuga, the souls that are born in this age have very little control over their mind and impulses. So sometimes out of emotions, they might unwillingly hurt somebody by their words. But the Lord is so merciful that in this age, He has given us a so-called discount, you can say, where any form of, karma that is incurred by thoughts or by the mind is actually negated. That means if you have some bad thoughts towards somebody, somebody did something to you, and you're just thinking in your head, I wish I can do this to the person, I wish I can do that to the person. In previous ages, it will be counted as bad karma, even though you didn't do anything. But in this age, it's not counted, you see. So I just wanted to share that's a positive note. So don't worry too much, if you have a lot of bad things in your head. The Lord understand. Yeah, so
I think last week we briefly talked about this, about having negative thoughts or distractions for the matter. I think the very important thing to understand is that karma itself includes speech, thought, and actions. So what you say is also considered as karma. What you think is also it's also karma. And even if you don't do a harm, even when you think harm, actually, Ruben, the scriptures say that it's still considered as an action, and you will earn papa and punya accordingly as well. But I think the point here that we need to understand is that even if such thoughts come, try not to manipulate it. Don't think about it. Let it go and try to redirect your mind. I think that is when you can prevent yourself from committing even more grave mistakes. So,
That's true.
like for example, Surpanaka in that incident, in the case that Loshini had shared, right? I mean, at that point in time, she knew that both of them are married already. She could have just said, these are married, but I shouldn't go and destroy a marriage, a marriage, and I should just find another person who could be more compatible, right? But instead, she still chose to go to follow her feelings. So then, and then obviously, then whatever happens, happens. So I think both of you have raised lots of good points, right? From King Dasharatha, Surpanaka, and then we also looked at Kaikeyi, how one should not be manipulated, easily manipulated by others. Don't let others command you. I think Rupen in last week's episode on seeking divine, the new normal, you have mentioned that you have the intellect and then you have the four horses and the horses and
Five
the ring,
horses,
right? The
senses.
five senses. So be a good controller. I would say, be the best CEO of your own action, of own mind, body, and sense complexes. Be the best CEO. You have
Yeah.
everything in your control. So I think all this, let it be the Mahapuranas or even these Itihasas, they all strive to inform us to make well-informed decisions. Don't react instinctively. Make more deliberate, exercise deliberative thinking. And then another point that you also brought about is also to think, to not just see all the characters as, oh, this is a bad and this is good. I think Loshini made this point, right? I mean, everyone has divine in them. It's just the type of vasanas that they carry over. And what Ruben mentioned is you always have an opportunity to refine those vasanas. I think Roshni or Ruben, one of you mentioned, right? There's an opportunity to refine your vasanas at this birth. So yes, you may have, because of your past affiliations or whatsoever, you have inherited some bad qualities. Vasanas is called qualities, bad qualities. But you have the choice in this present a moment to actually make. I think one point that I always, during when I do counseling sessions separately, so that I always tell people is that humans are not like animals. Animals are pre-programmed in nature. Humans have the intellect to make well-informed decisions. Birth and death, BCD, birth and death not in your control, but choices is always in your control. I think with that, we can happily conclude this evening's episode. Thank you so much, Rupan and Loshini, for bringing such valuable facts and information. I'm so sorry that I took 20 minutes of the program to share some basic stuff. I thought it was very important to set some perspectives and give people some foundational understanding before
Indeed,
we
indeed.
talk
Yeah,
about that.
definitely.
Yeah, so I hope, I'm so sorry if I had taken too much of your time.
No. I wish it was longer. Yeah, I really wish it was longer. Yeah.
Yeah, so at this point in time, I would like to also promote next week's episodes. Next week's episode is going to be very exciting. Next week's episode is going to be a good balance of speech and visual treat. You might be wondering what does a visual treat? Yes, next week we are going to talk about dance and music, and that means you're going to have live performances coming here. We are going to have dancers and singers coming here right on our Hindu Insider series. They are going to perform and we're going to learn about Natya Sastras, the different elements of Natya Sastras, and you're going to have beautiful visual treats. So, not like today's one is a full-on lecture, but I hope it was a very fruitful discussion because I actually gleaned a lot of good insights, valuable insights from this evening's session. So, I hope you tune in with us next week. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care and stay safe.